everyone, this video is an example of the chi-square test to determine if a pair of variables are related in a significant way or not, given the data. So this is our first example, and we're looking at smokers and non-smokers and observed values versus expected values. So the first thing we're going to do is just add up these columns. We have two rows. So it's row 1, row 2, and 2 columns. Column 1, column 2. So let's add all this up. When you add it up, let's add across the rows. We get 83, 113, and adding down you get 62 and 134. Then add your total and you get 196. Now expected value is where you take, and I'll write it out here because there's not enough room, but let's write it here. For the male, what we're doing is we're taking the 62 total here for smokers divided by our total here multiplied by the total males here. So it goes like this: 62 divided by 196 times 83. So when you get that, you get approximately, and these are approximate, 26.3. So for the non-smokers, you look at this line and you do the same thing, but you take this value, so that's 134, divided by your total, 196, and that's times 0.83. That's approximately 56.7. Now all of these stay the same, so this is going to be 83, 113, 196, 134, and 62. So your totals stay the same. Now for female, we're doing the same thing. We're doing 62 divided by 196, but now instead of 83, we're multiplying it by this number because that's your female row. So that's 113, and that's going to be approximately, let's do this in, let's do it this color. So this is going to be 35.7, and you do the same thing for the next one, but instead of 83, you're going to multiply this by 113. And that's going to give you approximately 77.3. So that's how you do expected values. Now, the tables are called contingency tables. And the degree of freedom. So we want to do the degrees of freedom. And what you do, this is your new, which is it, new, whoops. So we're going to write new, we'll just write it like that, equals your number of rows minus 1 times your number of columns minus 1. So in this case, we're going to get our, that's going to equal, we have 2 rows and 2 columns. So this is just going to equal 1. So your degrees of freedom equals 1. The null hypothesis is going to be, we always want to make it independent. So you're going to write gender and smoking. Sorry, this are independent. And then your alternative hypothesis is going to be gender and smoking are dependent. That would mean if, smoking goes more with the gender. And then we're going to calculate our chi-squared using this formula. Now, before we get started on your chi-squared calculation, also know that we can rewrite this. It's going to make it easier. And I'm going to switch this. So I'm going to take my expected value minus my observed value squared divided by your observed value. These two equal, and the reason why this is kind of easier to do it this way is because you don't have to work with decimals as much. So basically, let's do that. I wrote everything out here. So to get your chi-squared, so let's write it again, chi-squared calculation. Basically, they give it to you this way. And I'm going to rewrite it as the expected frequency minus the observed frequency squared divided by your observed frequency. You get the same answer as if you did it the other way. It makes it easier because our expected has the decimals in it. And then so you don't have to put that in the calculator. Well, you do, but not as much. So let's do this. So that's going to be 26.3. So there's that. Minus 27 squared. And then you just divide it by 27. That just makes it easier that you don't have decimals twice. Okay, then you just add. So this is a summation sign. Your next one. So we'll just go and use this one. These two. So that's going to be plus 35.7 minus 35 squared, and then just divide by that number. So 35. Plus, now we're going to do the 56 one with that 56. So it's going to be 56.7 minus 56 squared divided by 56 plus, and finally we'll do the last one, which is these two. So that's going to be 77.3 minus 77 squared divided by your 77. And you put that in the calculator and you're going to get approximately 0.0421. All right. So now we're going to look at the critical and see what's going on. So what we want to know is what chi-squared critical is versus calculate. So critical, we want, our degree of freedom is 1, and we want a 5% significance level. So that equals 3.841. Since our critical is greater than our calculated one, so that means 3.841 is greater than 0.0421. That means the null hypothesis is accepted and the alternative is rejected. That means gender and smoking are independent And that's assuming 95% level of certainty. Because we use the 5% significance level. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.